When we talk about the environmental crisis, our minds usually jump to things like carbon emissions, plastic in the oceans, all that stuff. But what if the real problem goes deeper? What if it's not just a material issue? In this explainer, we're going to explore a really unique perspective from the Baha'i writings, one that frames our ecological challenges as, believe it or not, a spiritual crisis.
So let's just start right there with that huge question. Is our environmental crisis just a material problem? What the Baha'i teaching suggests is that if we want a solution that actually lasts, we have to look beyond the symptoms and dig down to the root cause.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to unpack why this is seen as a spiritual crisis at its very core. Then we'll look at how we can see nature differently, almost like a divine mirror. After that, we'll get practical and talk about humanity's unique role in all this, the values we need for real balance, and finally, we'll zoom out to see a vision for a truly sustainable future. Okay, let's dive into that first big idea, that our environmental crisis is fundamentally a spiritual one. The source material argues that our destructive path isn't just about the things we do, but about a deep, deep disconnect in our values. This slide really lays out the core conflict. See, on one side, you have these dominant materialist philosophies that basically treat nature as just a pile of resources to be consumed. But on the other side, you've got spiritual principles that call for a balanced, respectful, harmonious relationship with our world. The argument here is that we've tipped the scales way too far to one side, and that imbalance is the real source of our problems. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates that deep connection. It's from a letter written on behalf of Shoghi Effendi, who is a key leader in the Baha'i faith. He wrote, "We cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us." I mean, think about that. In other words, our inner world and our outer world, they're inseparable. A planet in chaos reflects a humanity in chaos. So, if our inner state is so connected to the outer world, what does that mean for how we should actually view nature? Well, the Baha'i writings suggest we need to stop seeing it as just a collection of resources and start seeing it as a kind of mirror, reflecting something much, much deeper. Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, puts this so beautifully. He says, "When I contemplate the sea, it talketh to me of thy majesty. And when I turn unto the mountains, I behold the ensigns of thy victory." So in this view, nature isn't just stuff. It's this incredible source of spiritual awareness, like a book filled with signs that point towards the divine. And this divine book has some really clear characteristics. The writings describe nature as a totally unified system, where every single part is interconnected. It's all subject to these unbreakable laws and a sense of order. It's also in a constant state of change and motion, and it's defined by its incredible diversity. And ultimately, it all works to serve the human world. It's this coherent, dynamic, and totally interdependent reality. Okay, so we've got this vast, ordered, unified system that is nature. The big question then is, where do we fit in? And that brings us right to humanity's really unique role and the immense responsibility that comes along with it. This table right here highlights a key distinction that was drawn by Baha, the son of the faith's founder. He explains that while nature pretty much operates on instinct, we as humans are gifted with consciousness, with will, and with this incredible ability to discover truth. Now, these unique powers don't make us superior, but they absolutely place us in a special position of stewardship over the entire natural world. And here's the crucial point, right? It all comes down to how we use these gifts. As a letter from the Universal House of Justice, that's the governing body of the Baha'i faith, puts it, our unique abilities can either generate creative genius or create destruction and ruin. The choice and the consequences of that choice are totally ours. So, we have this awesome responsibility. How in the world do we exercise it correctly? Well, that requires a really clear set of values, which is exactly what we're going to look at in our fourth section, the principles for a balanced world. 4 fundamental values are really highlighted here. First, appreciating the true worth of things. Recognizing that our dignity comes from spiritual virtues, not just from material wealth. Second, practicing moderation in all parts of our lives. Third is a deep, profound commitment to kindness and compassion for animals. And fourth, it's not just about preserving nature, but actively working to cultivate and beautify it. And I have to say, this emphasis on kindness to animals is incredibly strong. Baha states, "Ye must show forth the utmost consideration to the animal and be even kinder to him than to your fellow man." I mean, that's not just a casual suggestion, it's a core ethical principle that really extends our circle of compassion to all living beings. So, how do all these individual values scale up to create a global solution? That's what our final section is all about. Looking at the Baha'i vision for a sustainable future, not just for some, but for all of humanity. This vision for the future really rests on three main pillars. It requires global cooperation, maybe through a world federation, to manage the planet's resources fairly. It involves the careful coordination of those resources to make sure there's equity and justice for everyone. And it calls for the harmony of science and religion, seeing them as two complementary forces that, when they work together, can solve the world's problems. And the ultimate goal here, it's nothing short of transformative. Abdu'l-Baha describes a future where the world becomes a veritable paradise, where divine bounties are available to all, and infinite happiness and joy will prevail. It's such a hopeful and deeply aspirational vision for what our planet can actually become when we align our actions with spiritual principles. So, as we finish up, let's just reflect on this one final question. What is one spiritual principle we can apply in our own lives today? Whether it's practicing a little more moderation, showing some kindness to an animal, or just taking a moment to see that divine reflection in nature. The journey toward a balanced world really does begin with a change in our own hearts and minds.